Hey, welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here. Cool. Well, why don't we start off by you just telling us a little bit about yourself?
So I usually introduce myself as I'm a soul in a woman's body that's on this wonderful, adventurous journey.
Hmm.
And the way I am expressing myself now is through my music, through my motivational presentations, through the video and video content that I create, and books that I write, anything creative, and also in all of it, I always share tips or even experiences that can help people to heal deeper, love more, and then be able to uplift others and create a better world.
Can you just tell us a little bit about your story so we can get a little background about you?
Right. So I'm a mother of three sons as well, and I'm recently widowed. So everything now has a different angle. Um, I'm originally from Croatia, which is a tiny little country in Europe. When I was 4, I dreamt this dream that I would someday tell stories through music and change the world, make this world a better place. So that was my dream as a 4-year-old girl.
And look
And
at you. That's so
I,
cool.
I know I stuck to it in all the different forms.
Mhm.
So I got to work on it. Croatia was part of Yugoslavia, which was a communist country, which was actually, in a lot of ways, the socialist system allowed us to have free education, to have lots of art, and to have this sense of awareness that we're all in this together, that we're all working for the common good, which is different from the free market world where we're all, the first thing is how do I provide for myself, I guess that influenced how I saw how I view the world even today. It's always my goal is always not just not my own well-being, but really how do what I do benefits my environment and my world. So I got to work. I started as 4-year-old. I got to audition for like a big music event. There was these kids performing with symphony orchestra, and it was televised, and so that's how my career started. And then my dad was also a singer and guitar player, so I sang in his band. I started the music conservatory, very, very serious music training, classical training. Then I started as well doing theater work, so I would be comfortable on stage. So I was, working on my skill. When I was 19, I became a pop star, full-fledged, platinum selling album. Um, I had a Tajci doll made, like a little Barbie doll that looks like me.
That must have been so cool.
It was really great. It was amazing because all of a sudden, here I am, I reached my dream. Here it is. Now I can change a lot of hearts, millions of people's hearts, and tell stories through music. So that, yeah. And everything that goes with it. I mean, the shoes and the designer clothes and beautiful dinners and makeup and everything the girl dreams about. But, the fact that I had a doll helped me to realize a lot faster that was me. I was becoming a doll. And dolls are pretty. They're beautiful on the outside, but they're plastic. They don't have anything inside. They don't have their voice. Other people give them their voice. Other people get to move their arms and legs that they want to. The dolls don't do it on their own. So that symbolically it was such a huge tidal wave of realization. Am I becoming this? Because any kind of big brand you build or you happen to be built into will do that.
Hmm.
It is easy to start serving your brand rather than, well, who am I in it, and am I still serving the message that I want to be conveying here.
Absolutely.
And so that happened to me. The brand pretty much imprisoned me. And of course, I was so young. I was 19 years old, and I was an artist, so I didn't have much of the entrepreneurial sense. And so I relied on my team and my record company and my producers and managers to make all the decisions for me and the material that I was singing. And soon enough, it was just so different from who I was that I said, okay, I'm done with this. I have to get out. When you are on top and you have so many people and you have contracts, with big,
Yeah.
record companies, you don't just walk away. And so, but I was getting crushed. I was actually brought to a point where I just really didn't want to live, because the unhappiness inside and the ability to even like express that,
Yeah.
and having to preserve the brand that's feeding not just you, but also, all these people that your brand is producing for, and the fans. You don't want to disillusion your fans.
That's a
Or you
lot of
die.
pressure for a 19-year-old.
19 years old, yes.
Wow.
And I realized I was either gonna, I had a thought. Look, the only exit, only way out is really just to kill myself, to just stop living. And I mean, I began to speed my car, to crash, and just because I want to die. And then I had the moment of grace, or whatever you want to call it, where I just thought, well, well, the thought came to me. I this weirdest thought ever. I knew why Marilyn Monroe killed herself. That was actually the thought that came to my mind just before I was so close to crashing. And it's because, we did play a lot with the imagery of Marilyn Monroe, and how, they styled my hair and makeup and what clothes I wore. And so that actually saved my life. And then the next thoughts were, well, maybe I just numb myself, drugs, alcohol, meaningless relationships, consumerism, whatever. But I was too aware already that would be just a distraction, and that I would just be a vegetable, a doll, a dead doll for the rest of my life. And what happened then is that I looked at the thousands of little girls who wrote me letters and said, I just want to be like you when I grow up. And they were my strength to say, no, I can ruin my life. I can live, suffer through, but I can't because of them. Because I don't want to give them a message that, yeah, this is what girls do. We become successful, become dolls. We keep our mouth shut. We're silent. We nod our heads and, smile and do whatever people want to do with us. So I said, no, I can't, because of them, I can't do that. So I left. I came to America, and I took a big risk, but legally I got away. I wiggled out because, unfortunately, there was a war in my country, and that kind of shook all the legal systems. So I stayed there for the first 6 months of the war, and I really visited, orphanages and the wounded people, and really just tried to do a little bit of good. And then I left, and I came to America, and since then it's been even a wilder ride,
So what have you been up to in America?
So since then, since I've come, so I lived in New York City. I graduated from musical theater academy there, and I worked on Broadway and off Broadway, but on Broadway shows, and sang jazz there, and then I started to write. Then I moved to Los Angeles. I did a lot of, I really truly became a social, creative entrepreneur, and just created my own work. I was excited about, auditioning for Broadway plays and finding my home there, because, where else can you tell stories through music and touch human hearts? That's Broadway, right? Musicals. But I got tired of waiting. I got tired of waiting for the jobs, auditioning, and I don't mind rejection. I understand this is the business. You audition 100 times, you get one job. That's success. But in the meantime, while I was waiting, I couldn't sit still. I couldn't just wait tables like everybody else, my colleagues. I would just create my own shows, and then I would create my own shows and tour with them, and then I missed the auditions. So I realized, well, maybe it's better if I just not just, but if I focus on creating the work. So then I moved to Los Angeles. I wrote a one-woman play. I traveled with that. Then I met my husband, and he was an entrepreneur from Indiana, and he had a lot of connections in a certain faith-based market. But it wasn't really even a market he liked to create these, interesting new things. So I created a beautiful show, and then we had 3 kids. So for 15 years, we just did these beautiful, beautiful, very powerful, moving concerts that were really about a personal experience of what is God, what is life, just these like beautiful, deep chances for us to enter into this reflective meditation, which was very different from my pop music that I was doing before. And then when my oldest son turned 15, he was ready for high school. We decided to get off the road because the kids actually asked us, can we just have a normal life? Because this touring is great. Like, I have hundreds of friends everywhere in the country, but nobody on my street.
Yeah.
So they were like, can we have like a regular kid experience? So then we moved to Nashville, and we produced a TV show called Waking Up in America, on which I interviewed entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs, anybody that had a career before and then had a turning point, and went from this like, okay, I have a good job, everything's good, but I feel empty. I feel kind of like stuck in the doll shell. And then something happens that propels them into this new existence where they actually come alive.
Yep.
And contribute to the world. And every episode of my show had a music piece, because I believe music is a very, it goes back to my 4-year-old dream, a dream as a 4-year-old. Music can reach us in ways that it can open us up, so we can then really receive the message and jump into our transformation. So now I'm really, everything I do, whether it's music or my presentations or my online course or a retreat. I'm actually taking people on a retreat to Croatia, sailing retreat. We're sailing.
Amazing.
Yes, I know, it's
so fun.
Yes. So everything has the music and transformational work. But it's still the same. It's creating music that tells stories and touches human heart. In order for us to really, whatever that doll shell is in your life, to really step out of it and each morning choose to heal a little deeper and then live fuller and with open arms, rather than, because when we do that, then we can help others. We can notice, I'm also very involved with prevention of sex trafficking, awareness of sex trafficking, and abuse. And so, we will, when we do that, when we open up and we heal and we live fully engaged, then we actually notice those issues. We notice people that struggle, and then we can step in and help them.
You're speaking my language. I got my master's in social work before I became an entrepreneur, and one of my practicums was with sex slavery in St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you're totally speaking my language.
Yeah, it's a big issue that people don't understand how it affects everybody, and I get to places and they say, well, we don't want you to speak about that because we don't have that problem here.
It's everywhere. Most people just don't see it, like how rampant it is. And even in like the suburbs of St. Louis where we were, it was huge and nobody could believe it. But it was this massive issue that just doesn't get talked about enough.
Yes. And when you think about it, we always have this perception that it's, either Asian or Eastern European girls that are being brought in. But it's 86% here in Tennessee is American citizens, and then the other issue that people don't realize is I had 2 survivors. I hosted in my house dinner with 2 survivors of sex trafficking and some of my subdivision moms. And, so we were just asking the questions. And at one point, one of the moms asked, well, who are these monsters, Johns, that are just doing this, that are supporting this business, they're keeping you in slavery. And she one of the survivors looked her right in her eye and says, honey, they're your husbands. They come from your homes. They come from your subdivisions. They're doctors and lawyers and teachers and ministers and cops. And, and she said, they're not just scumbags that you. So I always bring that up because, each of us, how are we, by denying our own problems, by not looking at our marriages, at our relationships in a deep, healthy, and honest way, maybe we're the ones that are directly involved with it, And people don't like to think or talk about this because it's a personal thing for everybody.
Yeah. But I think it's something that needs to be talked about. Absolutely. Because the more awareness
Absolutely.
there is, the more we can help, and the more, because I'll ask you about the organizations that you support and all of that later on. But I mean, I'm so happy that you're doing all of that and using your platform for good. And it's inspiring and amazing. And something
Thank
that you
you.
didn't mention is that you are a public speaker, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I do a lot of the that is an inspirational and motivational speaker. Yes.
Yeah. Can you talk to us about the 5 elements of every change and then how we can apply it into achieving big goals?
Yes. Okay. So this is something that I didn't make up, and I didn't, it's not a formula. I don't believe that there's any magic wand or any one course that you can take to change your life. I think every change and every transformation is a process,
Mhm.
and it's an everyday decision. We change every day. People, I have people like to say, well, when was this moment in which you changed, and now, because we were all, and now the life is beautiful and perfect because we were all brought up and we loved Disney movies and fairy tales in which, at the end the music swells up and the princess finds her prince and they live happily ever after, and the credits roll, and that's it. So there's no such thing as a magic formula, and these 5 elements that I talk about are really elements that I found just through studying people I had on, stories of people that I had on my show, reading lots of self-help books, being in therapy myself for 7 or 8, 10 years, and then also looking at my own life and the big transformations that I went through. I just dif- identified 5 elements, and so the first element is connection. And if an athlete envisions themselves running through the finish line as a winner, or a basketball player, you envision making that basket so you know where the ball is going to go.
Yep.
So the same way, we have to connect with our larger vision and the force behind it. Why do I want to change? What's the reason behind it? And where do you draw strength? What is the purpose? So when let's say, I want to be a successful singer, what is it going to bring into my life? And then where do I connect into for the motivation, every day's motivation to actually do it? So the connection is the first and most important. If you don't have that connection, you can try to change your diet, for example. But if you don't know why, if you don't want to really feel that healthy and then be able to be there for your kids or whoever, you're not going to be motivated. So that's the first, connecting. Second is external shift. So that's basically looking at your environment and saying, okay, what if my environment I can change and I need to change? So for example, if you really want some peace and calm and detox, well, maybe you should look at your desk and see if it's really cluttered. That's you can literally do things like that. Or toxic relationship. Do I have to get out of the toxic relationship first? Can I? If like, for example, my husband was diagnosed with cancer, well, there was nothing about that external environment that we could have changed. So in that case, we look at what in that external environment can we change, what can we remove, stress, so that we can then continue to find the change that we want. Which brings us to the third, very most important element, is the internal shift. And this is your basic mindset shift. How do we think thoughts that bring us to this new reality, as opposed to being stuck to the thoughts that just feed us the old story.
Yep. That's
For
huge.
example, I just had one of those myself, where people would ask me, well, how are you doing now with being a single mother? And I would say it's hard, because I'm all about transparency. So yes, it's really hard. But so many people asked me, and so often, that I was repeating, it's hard. And one morning I woke up and I went for my walk and I just felt, oh, it's so hard. And I thought, well, okay, now it's time to change that story.
Yep.
What can I change in that, even in that? Because by repeating the old thoughts, even repeating what's true, but
Yeah.
now making a change, it's going to get stuck, and it's going to create that reality, and you're
Yep.
going to be in it. So I just said, okay, it's challenging, but I am getting through it. I am getting through it right now. It's becoming easier. Every day it's easier. And then I actually, just by talking you through, I got to my new narrative.
So instead of saying it's hard, change it to every day it's getting easier.
Yes,
That's
yes.
so
And
good.
yes. And for me, in the end, my narrative is, this is new life.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I have. And I just don't want to think it's hard. Yes, it's challenging. But by changing the mindset, we're actually changing the way how we see our situation, and then we have the opportunity to actually change it.
Yep, absolutely. Because if you keep speaking, it's hard over yourself. You begin to internalize it, and then you live that it is hard. That's huge.
Yes, our brains don't know the difference between what we tell them and what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Our brain is like a computer, and so all the information that comes to it is what we hold on to or we let go. So the brain picks up the information, and we process it. And so it's up to us whether we're going to hold on to it and make it the truth, or process and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
It's complicated, and that involves a lot of work, a lot of inner work. Mindfulness is a really, really, really awesome tool and practice, and I'm a big advocate of mindfulness. It's
So what do
helped
you
me.
do for your mindfulness practice?
A lot of breath work. Every day. When I first started, I needed to catch myself many times a day, intentionally pause and breathe, so that I could begin to listen to those thoughts. I can be aware, what am I thinking and why am I thinking this? Rather than constantly just being in the work mode where you never stop and observe. Because
Totally.
if you're constantly in, you're thinking, you're in a work mode. You don't ever reset your computer, right?
That's so huge for so many entrepreneurs because we're so creative. We have so many ideas. And so it's so hard to get the brain to actually just like stop, like just like process, think.
Well, and I'm very guilty of that. My computer, I love it. I trust it so much. It's a great machine, and so I have 15 apps running, and everything's open, and everything's available to me, and it's working really great until it doesn't, until it freezes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same with our brain. And so better choice is to every day, close down my apps, and turn and shut down the computer, and then the next morning, but clean the trash, organize it and put what's not needed. So why don't we do that to our brains?
Yeah.
Whenever, but it's daily work. And more you have, and I know as an entrepreneur, I love to have tons of projects going at the same time. That just gives me energy.
Totally.
Yeah.
I just finished this major project and I'm like, I need something else to do. Like, I'm going to get so bored really quickly. Like, what am I going to do next?
Yes. And so we have to intentionally create those moments of quiet, even if it feels like boredom, but it's good. It's healthy for our bodies, really.
Yeah.
And there's no really change without that mindfulness, without knowing where we are. How do you know that? Okay, I've done projects where I put so much work, hours and years of work into it, and then they weren't failures, but they weren't really that great of projects.
Mm-hmm.
But I never stopped I was so into it that I never stopped to evaluate. And maybe the projects were actually good, successful financially, whatever. But in the end, I was like, I don't know if it was really worth it.
Yeah.
So with this mindfulness and with this internal shift, being aware of where I am, where am I, what am I doing, why am I doing, and how I can change things. Why is this not as easy as it should be? Well, maybe there's something in your mindset that you need to change slightly. For example, my son is my oldest son. He's starting to study animation. He's a brilliant young man. Brilliant. All of my sons are brilliant, as I'm sure all children are.
Yep.
But when he was younger, he was about 15 years old, and he was working on a Lego project, and he was building a gumball machine out of Legos. And he was up in his room for 7 hours, and it was just quiet, and he was working diligently on it. He came down to dinner. Occasionally he would call me up for me to see the progress, and I was so excited. It was like this super involved, complicated, mechanical thing that he was building. And he came down to dinner, and I said, "How's it going?" He said, I had to take it all apart." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah." So I put 7 hours into it, maybe more, but I realized there was a piece that I couldn't find which piece was wrong. And it would take me a lot longer to find the piece to fix it than just start from scratch. And I said, "But you just put all these hours in." Said, "Yes, but I just had to do it." So since then, there have been so many situations where both of us like, "Oh, remember those Legos? This is the time when I'm abandoning my project." Not abandoning, but just rethinking it, going back to the beginning, because I'm not sure that this piece is going to work in a long time. That takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And we can do that only when we can do the inner work, the mindset shift, saying, "Oh no, I have to persist. I have to do this. This is really going to be good." But to tell ourselves, no, it's okay. It's okay to stop and declare it. Maybe this is not what I want. But that takes, again, the inner work of shifting our minds, making that internal shift of what do we want, and whether it's working through a false limited belief of I'm not good enough to actually do this, or oh, I'm so stupid, how could I make the mistake, so I'm just going to even not admit that mistake, and I'm just going to plow through it. That takes a lot of that internal shift. I hope I didn't confuse you too much here, because I
no,
put
not
it
at all. Not at all. No, I totally get it. Totally get it.
Yes.
Now, step 4, yeah?
Yes. Step 4 is commit and practice.
Okay.
Because none of these changes, no business, no change, no diet change is going to happen in 1 day or 2 or 3 or 5 days. Even, they say 21 days is a minimum, but there's a statistic that says 66 days is actually more like the average.
I believe it.
So basically, you got to stick to it.
Yeah.
Stick to it. So we're talking about transformation. So, do I really want to, for this hard time of my life to pass? I do. So every day I have to wake up and say, it's every day is easier. I draw strength. I don't have to have strength to do this alone. My strength comes from everywhere around me, from my new family, my friends, my support system. I have to do that every day. And when I wake up one day and say, "Oh, this is really hard," that's okay. I can do that for a minute. Allow myself to feel tired, exhausted, whatever you're doing on your transformation. I'm just giving my example. And then I promise you, in 5 minutes or half an hour, and even 2 hours later, if you go back to, okay, I'm going to stick to it, kind of like Nike's Do It. You can just do it. Practice and commit. And then the 5th element is what I believe is what actually makes a transformation a lasting transformation and a worthwhile transformation. It's giving back or paying forward. Because if we're transforming our lives, if we're gaining a new healthy habit, or losing weight, or working on a relationship, changing the way, how our relationships are so we can have this great relationship, or switching a job, finding a new career. If we're only doing that for the sake of our own fulfillment, we will just be going from one change to another, and we will always feel like that hamster in a hamster wheel.
That's Tony Robbins says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure.
Exactly. And I find purpose and fulfillment in helping others, in giving forward. And then, you see that the fruits of all this work that you've done, of all this, committing to each day to change your mindset and work on your external environment and connecting to a larger purpose every day of your life. if it serves somebody else, if it makes somebody else's life better, then you feel good. And you're like, yeah, at the end of your life, you can say, I've done something.
Yep.
So
So good. Tell us about, so you support End Slavery Tennessee. Tell us about them and any other charities that you support.
So End Slavery Tennessee is a great organization that actually does educates the community about sex trafficking, works on prevention with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, also helps the sex trafficking victims to house them and on their way to recovery. And then also we provide education in the communities and opportunities for people to support, to get involved. Um, they do a lot of their one-point entry. So, and they belong to they're in alliance with 4 other organizations in Tennessee, so that when there is a case that a girl is brought out or identified, then and Tennessee and Slavery Tennessee is notified, and then we can help them. But I'm on the end of educating and speaking about it. So if anybody ever wants, we come, to have a little presentation about it. We can come and speak about it, and it's really wonderful. And again, like I like to point out why it matters to all of us.
Yep.
For example, I have 3 boys. It's very important to me that they're aware of this. Mm-hmm. Because they're also going to be, as young men, as teenagers, they will have the opportunity to affect perhaps somebody who is at risk. And this is another thing that we talk about when we come and make presentations. Who are the girls and boys that are at risk? Why are they vulnerable to sex traffickers?
I literally just saw a story today of 2 girls at McDonald's, and they were afraid because there were men next to them that were like waiting for them, bought them food, and were like basically waiting for them to leave. And they saw 2 boys that were around their same age, like high schoolers, and said, "Hey, will you sit down next to us and pretend that you know us?" And right. And I was just like, oh, like I literally just read that today. And just having them be aware of those situations, that's huge.
Yeah. And, most cases it happens gradually. It's usually, it happens through, a lot of it happens through somebody who's vulnerable. Maybe their family life is not stable, and so they don't have somebody to talk to, or maybe they're bullied at school, they become vulnerable. An older boyfriend shows up who just makes them feel loved, makes them feel significant, listens to them, and then slowly they coerce them into drugs, and soon it becomes, oh, you just do this for me once, and because I love you so much. There's a lot of that going on, unfortunately. So it's not kidnapping and putting a bag over your head and kidnapping girls. It's more so then, because then it's even worse, because the girl feels it's her fault.
Yep.
She has willingly entered into this.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I see that, being from the music industry and entertainment industry, that there's a lot of sex trade and pressure happening in that industry, where you feel like, well, if I want to get somewhere in this business, this is a part of it's a part of it, but it's not a part of it.
Right.
It's a lie. Nobody, you should never sell or use your body to do what you're to work, to do your profession, to do what you set to do.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure to link to them in the show notes. Are there any other organizations that you love to support?
Absolutely. So National Peacemakers is another one. I'm on their board, and it's founded by Clemmy Grinley, who is a sex trafficking survivor. She is, after 3 decades of being stuck in sex slavery, she was brought into a program called Magdalene Program by Thistle Farms. And Thistle Farms is another.
I've bought their stuff before. I posted about it on
Yes.
Instagram. Tell us about Thistle Farms.
Oh, Thistle Farms is this amazing organization that is a survivor. It's a community of survivors that supports survivors of sex trafficking, prostitution, addiction, and abuse. And they truly restore lives of these women. They started, Becca Stevens, who's the founder, started with 5 women. And now she has, I mean, this has grown into, after 20 years, into one of the biggest social enterprises in America. I think last year they were like the second most successful. And what they do is, the way they help the women is unconditional love, obviously. Miss Clemmy of Nashville Peacemakers, who now works with at-risk boys that are at risk for to get into gangs, and against gang violence, and also sex trafficking. She works with those kids now in the neighborhoods and gives them like basic life skills. Has really great programs for them. So yes, I would love for you to look into that. But Clemmy says when she came to Becca Stevens to Thistle Farms, she says, Becca gave me a hug before she gave me a bath. So that kind of love, that's right there. That's what I think we all should do. Just giving you a hug before I ask you to. And we don't do that. We often say, well, just fill out these papers and let me see your ID and go get clean and whatever, and then I'll help you. Or prove that you're gonna be a good I don't want to get too deep into the bad how we do it wrong, but because I'm very passionate, obviously, as you can tell. So that was really beautiful. And then the next step is that what Thistle Farms does is that actually, yes, they house the women and they love on them, but they also give them a job. And the job is to produce the cosmetics or the body products. And that is huge because it gives women a sense of empowerment.
Yep.
And sense of value. That's different than selling their bodies, having to sell their bodies. Yes, Thistle Farms. And then Better Decisions is an organization that we volunteer, we mentor in prisons. And again, it's a great curriculum making, how to make better decisions. Yeah. What does that mean? And they have a lot of, we teach them basic, life skills like saying no, boundaries, just basically, again, being mindful of where are you, who are you? You don't have to be in this life stuck forever. You are not your crime. You are this person that this happened to. So we teach them a lot of mindfulness to, again, to then be able to react differently rather than and respond to and find the life opportunities.
So good. Oh my goodness. We'll link all of those in the show notes. You've accomplished so much in your life so far. What's next for you?
Well, next is, I don't know that there's next. For me, it's always current.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And current is, I'm really practicing this, being a mother of 3 children. And my oldest is now in college, so I have 2 at home. And providing health and wellness for them, which is really a challenge living in America today.
Oh, it's so hard. I'm in France right now, and it's so much easier than when we're in the States. Like, it's like a whole nother world. It's crazy.
Why is it?
Why is it so hard? Just all the
Why
process.
Is it easier?
It's easier.
Yes.
Well, there's farmers markets. I walk to the market. Everyone has fresh food. There's a little bakery and it's like fresh bread every morning and everything's unprocessed and just fresh. It's just different. Everyone here is about quality over quantity. And so like the portions are tiny and they just enjoy it and have like a 2-hour lunch. And it's, amazing.
Exactly. So you can have a 2-hour lunch because you don't spend 2 hours getting to the store and buying and then preparing. And you're so right. And I am European living in the South in Nashville. So I tried to do the French thing, so I shop daily for fresh produce, which takes a lot of time.
It does.
But I do, so that is my main priority because wellness is huge. And I want my children to grow up with that awareness. But also, I am taking people on a cruise to Croatia.
That'll be so fun. Like
Yes.
amazing.
And a part of it is to, I call it a transformational cruise, although every trip you take anywhere, if you take it with intention to open up and to become a little bit richer by absorbing what you learn, is going to be transformational.
Yep.
So on my boat, we have a 34. It's a small boat. There's no casinos or all you can eat buffets. But on the boat that we have 34 people, and we're going to have morning sessions, which will include yoga and meditation, and then the sessions, transformational sessions, will just, like what I talked about, the 5 elements, and we'll just I'll just introduce that and let people take that and then take it into the day as we visit historical little towns on those beautiful islands that date back to Roman times, and then we're going to eat this beautiful food, homemade and locally grown, with wonderful wines that are grown right there and made right there. And then in the evenings, we're going to have music. Or some nights we're just going to have quiet time under the stars. So it's going to be this cultural immersion, and then we're going to have lavender massages.
Amazing.
Yeah, just for the purpose of being present in the moment, and then allowing the change to happen. Because really, like I said, there's no magic potions. It's just stopping and allowing life to really allowing life to gift us and change us for the better. And there you will find the paths to whatever you want to do, whether it's your successful business or whatever it is. The abundance of life is amazing.
That'll be so fun. Where can we connect with you?
So my main website is wakinguprevolution.com.
Okay.
And that's that branches to, you can see the TV show Waking Up in America. You can see my music. I do a lot of music. I perform here in Nashville.
Yep.
I have a show that's going to be performing in next year all over small theaters and performing arts centers all over America. And they're fun shows. I sing some classic country, and I sing jazz and standards and my own music. So yeah, that's great. And that also has my speakers page for anybody that, I love to do my inspirational speaking presentations, and I always bring music into it. I always weave music into it. So yeah, wakinguprevolution.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking your time out of day to share with us. You are an inspiration, and I really appreciate you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I just want to say one thing. I really appreciate, people like you and your work. And as I listen to your podcast, I love that. I love to see the new people, the new leaders, new game changers like yourself, that are so much more mindful of our world and how we can really truly uplift everyone, rather than just run this rat race in which your own personal benefit is God. So I just want to thank you and all your listeners, and all these women out there who have never even got stuck in that doll shell, but are real and awesome and brave and courageous. And I just want to say thank you. I am just inspired and encouraged by all of you.
Oh, thank you.